Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. And I'm back. I'm back with the finale of What If Deku was sent to Shield Hero. I wanted to say quick shout out to my boy Saint for the music. As always, check the links in the description. And also on top of that, if you're enjoying this, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions. And thank y'all for 17,000 subs. Bro, we just hit 15,000 subs not too long ago. It's wild that we're at 17,000 already. And I'm going to keep grinding these videos out for y'all as much as I possibly can. And yeah, that's about it. I hope y'all enjoy. And let's just get right into where we left off. Let's get it. Melty, the princess that is soon to be queen when her mother passes along, is trying to be assassinated. Who's trying to assassinate her? Well, Izuku and Naofumi have their suspicions, but they're not 100% sure. But their normal plans go just normal in line. Izuku tags along, now part of Naofumi's party. Naofumi begins to take them to Shield Frieden. But that will not go all according to plan. They're going to be confronted by the Royal Guard, Mine, and the other heroes. They're confronted and they begin to, well, fight immediately. Izuku immediately gets out of there with Melty and floats all the way, more or less, to another mountain. And nobody can really keep up. Izuku may not be insanely powerful, but his abilities allow for really good movement. With a combination of Black Whip and Float, he's able to just scale across entire mountains with ease depending on the more or less stature of each mountain. So he's able to get out of there with Melty in an instant. Melty is confused by this and he says that it's pretty obvious that Melty, her sister, is trying to kill her. She doesn't believe this, but later on Naofumi will confirm this. Naofumi, Raphtalia, and Philo begin fighting. They're fighting to get out of there, fighting to live, to survive, and eventually they're able to do just that. Melty wants to help, and Melty wants to try and reason with her sister, but even Izuku knows that this is a terrible idea. This will just cause for more pain, more hurting, and more, well, you could say, devastation. So Izuku keeps her there, and Izuku just mildly helps as Naofumi solves the issue himself, in which he does just that without Izuku exactly knowing what's happening. This then leads to them being approached by one of the shadows. After they escape, the shadow begins to say that the queen wants to speak with them. But Naofumi refuses, saying that they have a job they need to get done. They need very much so to get these class upgrades before the next wave, and that is the highest of priority. So that's what they try to end up doing, but unfortunately, with the blaze of flames behind them and the Royal Guard hunting them, Naofumi has no choice to listen to what the woman has said. The woman that told him to go meet the queen. So that's what he does. He travels with Melty, Izuku, Raphtalia, and Philo, and they meet up with some nobleman by the name of Van Richnot, who rules over a certain area close to where, obviously, the queen is. To let them rest, he allows them in, feeds them food, and is just a overall nice guy. Izuku recognizes this and thanks him for all the help. And, well, Richnot says that he doesn't really recognize Izuku. He seems kinda odd. Naofumi just chalks it up, basically saying that he's like him, he's from another world. And Izuku is even confused by this. Another world? So does that mean you want to go back too? Yes, I do. I mean, I don't want to deal with all of this. I feel like that's pretty blatantly obvious. But, Naofumi, you have met some good people, correct? Some people you care about. Naofumi looks around and shakes his head slightly, but even he knows that there is truth to these words. They're able to stay at night, but the morning they wake up, Naofumi sees Melty getting taken away by some short, evil guy by the name of Rabier. Izuku immediately says that they need to go after her, but Naofumi questions if this is a good idea. But eventually Naofumi decides to go rescue Melty and Richnot, eventually leading to Raphtalia seeing a place that she did not want to see when she arrived in this new kingdom. A place where demi-humans were enslaved, where she was enslaved, and this leads her to confront Rapier, who pitifully begs for mercy when Raphtalia begins beating him senseless, and before Rapier can actually fall off into the window, well, Izuku catches him with Black Whip and holds him still, tying him up, saying that if you let him go, only more problems will come. He needs to be in captivity as soon as possible. Naofumi nods and says that he agrees. A man like this can have a chance at surviving. Izuku says that's not exactly what he means, but if he does survive and does something even more terrible, that's just as bad. If they lock him up, then that will be a better solution. And Naofumi says that he knows that's what he meant, and that that's a good idea. So they make sure he's tied up and they begin taking him away to a place that maybe they can find more or less to put him away. During this time though, Raphtalia begins searching through her jail cells, the old place that she was locked up. Izuku is with Naofumi speaking of what they should exactly do with Rapier, and Raphtalia finds something, calling for Naofumi, and Izuku runs with him. Raphtalia has just found one of her childhood friends. This obviously would lead to the Rex Dragon not even showing up. Rapier is in complete captivity, but even with this said, the person that matters very importantly to this story would eventually still show up. The Filolial Queen, Vittoria. Vittoria shows up in front of them, saying that she wants to help and she needs to speak with Naofumi, the shield hero, and also this other person that showed up randomly. And Naofumi and Izuku go with her, and Izuku begins learning of everything, of the fact that these other heroes have tons of flaws that even Naofumi does himself, but Naofumi is the only one that's been truly helping, and that there are other countries that lack the help that needs to be done. And Izuku begins to think that if he was strong enough, maybe he could go to one of the other countries and help out. And Vittoria says this is a good idea, but unfortunately Izuku isn't strong enough. She realizes that he just arrived and he has really insane potential, but that is just not something that could happen just like this. And Vittoria says that all that matters now is that the heroes work together. And Naofumi believes that this is an impossible idea, that it's actually ridiculous to think about. And after some push and pull, and even Izuku chiming in, eventually Naofumi says he'll try. He'll try his best to reconcile with the other heroes. This then leads to the next morning. Vittoria takes Melty hostage to coerce Naofumi to make up with the heroes, but obviously with Izuku there, this decision was already made. But this is for a test to see how strong Philo truly is. To test Philo begins to use anything she possibly can to lay one finger on Vittoria, eventually showing Vittoria enough. And this Filolial Queen, the true Filolial Queen, decides to make Philo her apprentice, or the upcoming successor to the Filolial Queen. With all that said and done, Naofumi's party then begins to head off once again. But not to Shield Frieden, the closest hero they can possibly find. And unfortunately, that hero is the spear hero, Motoyasu. Motoyasu is there waiting. Motoyasu spots Naofumi, accusing him of killing both Ren and Itsuki, and Izuku says that that is the most outlandish thing he's ever heard. He's been on the run from them to protect Melty. because this dear old sister is trying to assassinate her. Melty begins to question Malty, asking why she would do such a thing, and Malty says she would never do that she would never do such a thing to hurt her dear sister, and that Naofumi must be controlling them with his horrible shield. And Izuku looks at them and is completely in shock at the fact of how stupid Motoyasu is, and he's never really seen this stupid of a mindset out of a person. And Izuku, who isn't insanely strong at this point and is limited, is worried that he won't be that useful in this battle. But he will be, as a more of a support type of hero here. And the gates begin to close. Everything begins to change around them, and an electric arena is made. Naofumi says he doesn't want to fight, that he wants to talk. He wants to talk about working together, that this needs to be... But the spear hero cuts him off and immediately attacks him. The fight rages on, well, all the way until Philo begins to sense something. Something big. Something really bad. Naofumi is told to unlock his dark shield and then cover them with the shield prison, and then he begins to spam his airstrike shields. Airstrike shield! Second shield! And they wait. Everything is so eerie, and Mind begins to question what he thinks he's doing, and Izuku even snaps at her and tells her to be quiet, that he knows something's coming as well. His danger sense is going off like crazy, until it smashes into them and begins destroying each and every shield. Luckily though, they're able to survive, but at the top of the crater, at the top of the mountain, stands the Pope. The Pope looks down on them as pretentious as always, honestly commending Naofumi for surviving, in which he says that everybody here will die as well, and he will take over, you could say, the royal family. Another blast is sent their way. One after another, it seems like the Pope has this endless amount of power. But luckily, Ran and Itsuki, the ones that were presumed to be dead, are not. They're back, and they're here to help the best they possibly can. They begin to fight as a team after Naofumi tells them the flaws and errors in their ways, and they begin to head toward the Pope. The Pope, though, covers them in a magical cathedral and traps them within, leading to Naofumi, while using his rage shield, using the last bit of power he has, leading him to use blood sacrifice. Izuku feels useless in this. The fact that he can't help at all. He hasn't gotten time to train by any means, and he's far weaker than even Raphtalia and Philo at this point, especially with the fact that he has no good levels. Yes, he has One for All, and that definitely boosts his strength, but in this world, that's not just it. You need these levels. These levels are actual multipliers, and that's what he needs to do. He watches on as Naofumi destroys his body, but at the same time kills the Pope. Luckily, the Queen is there to recover Naofumi and help the rest of the team. The Queen even introduces herself to Izuku, Raphtalia, and Philo, and is interested in Izuku, asking where he came from, and he says that originally he's born in a world where there's quirks, other known, well, you could say superpowers. The Queen is surprised by this and asks if he has those superpowers, and he nods. And he shows all of them, but says that he lacks the proper leveling up. And she smiles, saying that he might want to tag along for the next meeting they have for the Four Heroes Council. Izuku is surprised to be offered this, but he graciously accepts it, and the Queen says that he doesn't need to be so proper around her, that it seems like he's saved her own daughter multiple times, and Melty seems very fond of him. Izuku nods and thanks for obviously being so gracious to him. 3 days of recovery passes, and luckily Naofumi is up and ready to go once again. And throughout these 3 days, Izuku has been just training anywhere he can find. He's asked the other, people around the castle where there'd be good places to train, and that's all he's been doing, leveling up the most he possibly can. And Philo and Raphtalia have been beside Naofumi the entire time. They even tell Naofumi that Izuku feels terrible that he wasn't able to help, that he lacked the power to even help when he should have had it. Naofumi acts like he doesn't care, but obviously he does to a certain extent. This eventually leads to Naofumi and his party going to the Dragon Hourglass. Izuku tags along, but he's obviously not at high enough level yet to even get a class upgrade, but luckily Fitoria's blessing is upon them, and Raphtalia and Philo get massive boosts in their levels and obviously in their stats by doing this, but it does seem that they can't choose their own pathways, which is ultimately pretty bad, at least for Raphtalia and Philo, but the great boost in power is definitely a bonus. With all that said and done, Naofumi takes Izuku to the 4 heroes council: Izuku, Ren, Itsuki, Naofumi, and Motoyasu. The other 3 heroes question why he's even there, and the queen says that he needs to hear this just as well. Izuku has come from another world, and he is very similar to them, but his world works differently. He has more or less superpowers. They ask if that's the case that he should have been helpful, but he says that his superpowers work a little different here. Yes, they're present, but his level is so low that he can't exactly be helpful. The queen then says that that is where she comes in. There is going to be a Calmira Archipelago event, an XP grinding event, that you would get tons of more XP. Izuku's eyes grow wide hearing this and begins to think that this is a great time for him to level up. Eventually, Naofumi and the rest of the heroes share their experience gaining methods and everything they've learned, but the only thing is none of them can really agree on whose is the best or if any of them actually works properly, which kind of sucks. And Naofumi gets frustrated and decides to leave, saying that he'll see them at Calmira. So Izuku leaves as well, and that's exactly what happens next. They head off to Calmira, but during this time they meet a pair of travelers, Lark and Therese. Izuku's danger sense begins to go off faintly, but then stop immediately, and he's confused by this. Why is it going off? But these people, they seem so calm, rational, and timid. Well, not so much Lark, but at least to the point of Therese. He shakes it off by maybe it's just his quirk malfunctioning in a world like this, but he'll soon to find out that that's not exactly why it went off briefly. Later on, this leads to them XP grinding. And when I'm saying XP grinding, Naofumi's party XP grinds like crazy. Izuku gets stronger and stronger, and frankly, he quickly eclipses Raphtalia and Philo. Maybe not in level, but in pure power. Izuku is extremely strong now. All of this grinding, even with Lark and Therese now with a co-op, has given them insane XP. Izuku's quirks, obviously with One for All, makes him exponentially more strong. So at a level of almost 40 now, if he uses One for All, he's insanely powerful. And this will come in handy. And the reason why is because when Naofumi's party decides to relax on the beach, Philo discovers an undersea temple. A temple that they find has a dragon hourglass. And what resides is that it's linked to Calmira with 48 hours left. Naofumi says that they're going to head back to the queen right now to inform her of everything and get things planned and set up. Izuku then says that he'll stay here. He asks why, and Izuku explains that he needs to at least get to level 40 before this next wave occurs. If Glass, shows up again, he wants to be ready, and he wants to be able to face them 1 versus 1 if need be. Naofumi slightly smirks and tells him to go train if that's what he thinks is best. So Izuku does just that. Over the next 48 hours or so, Izuku just fights monster after monster, creature after creature, eventually getting to level 40, luckily before the wave begins. He's ready. He's got a little bit of rest, nothing crazy, just a couple of hours of sleep is all he needs for a fight of this length. The waves don't necessarily last for a really long time, and he should be able to help just as much right now. So he waits for it to begin, and he's sitting on the ship as it does. Sea monster after sea monster begins to close in, and Izuku immediately jumps out, grabbing them out of the water, throwing them into the air so that the spear, bow, and other heroes can destroy them out of the sky. And Izuku is playing a way larger part in this battle, far more than what it was before. Even the other heroes are shocked. Naofumi, though, isn't. He knows how strong Izuku could be if he trained in this world, and he obviously is showing that currently. He might even be stronger than Naofumi, at least without the Curse series. But with all that said, the final boss then arrives, a giant sea creature. Immediately, Izuku uses One for All at 80% and punches the creature so hard that it sends it almost to the bottom of the ocean, and he grabs it with Black Whip, throwing it into the sky and hoping that the bow hero can snipe it out, but the bow hero can't kill it. He's too weak. But the scythe hero, the one he didn't know had this insane power and he thought was a threat, comes out of nowhere, stabbing it, killing it. And well, they are standing on the creature, staring at Izuku and the other heroes. Izuku's danger sense begins to go off like crazy as the scythe hero charges at him. He dodges and kicks him in the stomach, and the scythe hero smirks, saying that he knew this kid was strong, but not this strong. But now this will be fun. The fight rages on, and it's pretty blatantly obvious. With Izuku, they have the upper hand. That's until Glass shows up, making it so that Naofumi is stranded. Naofumi has to fight Glass on his own. So Izuku says that he'll take points, and Raphtalia doesn't argue. His speed even outmatches hers currently, and Izuku says that if anybody's going to die, it's him. Don't let themselves get hurt. Izuku charges forward immediately at Lark and begins to fight with him, dodging his blade over and over and even wrapping his Black Whip around it, kicking him in the face. He throws Lark into the sky and then basically just jumps at him, spiking him back down as Raphtalia slices at Lark. The fight is going their way. With the extra, support of Izuku, this fight is theirs. And as the waves begin to tremor, and as Glass begins to lose her battle, everybody seems to have begin retreating. Lark and Therese jump over, telling Glass that this is not the time to fight. Izuku scoffs at this and is blatantly frustrated at the fact that they're gonna get away even though they did such a horrible thing. They might be trying to save their own world, but saving their own world at the expense of someone else's is far from unforgivable. This is absolutely ridiculous. He watches on as they get sucked back into the wave, but then he begins to get a pull. He sees another portal above him and it begins sucking him in, and Raphtalia and Philo try to grab him, pulling him back, and as they do this though, his glove begins to slip and he flies through the portal. Izuku Midoriya, just like that, is gone. No longer in that universe, he appears somewhere else. He looks around and he doesn't even know where he is. This entire world seems desolate, horrible, destroyed. What is going on? Now that is a wrap. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions for future what ifs and for what you want to see happen in the next What If Deku Was Sent. Obviously I don't know how long it's going to be until my next Deku or What If Deku Was Sent. I have a lot of things planned, but we'll see what I can do. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.
You